guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice. I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, please do consider subscribing. Earlier, I was not a series reader. I never read series, and even if I did, I have always read series that have already been completed because I don't like to wait for the sequel for an entire year. This year, however, I have read a couple of series. One time I don't even know that it is a series till I went towards the end of the book, and so now I am dying for the sequel of these books. We're going to be discussing all of that in today's video. I get to share all of my angst and agitation and all the energy bubbling up inside me because I just can't wait for these books. Pass on the FOMO to you if you care about any of these authors or any of these series, and we're gonna simmer in our own FOMO or whatever together. If you have not guessed the first book, that means you are definitely a new viewer, like you have not watched any videos on my channel. Even if you have recently started watching my videos since like the past 2-3 months, even then you should know what is the first book that I am literally dying for. If you know it, you have to put it in the comments because I just want to know who are the people who already watch me, and that book is none other than Reckless. Reckless by Lauren Roberts is the second book in the trilogy, the Powerless trilogy. I have read the first book this year and I have completely fallen in love with that book. Not just that, the way the book ends, it's sort of like, yeah, you do get the satisfaction of the entire story, the way everything built up, you do get the climax to that, but it does start on a different cliffhanger, which is now going to be continued obviously in book 2. And that cliffhanger is the craziest thing that I've ever read. Not just that, one of my most favorite lines from that book, which is always there in my head here and there, is there towards the end. And since I have read that, I am literally dying to read the second book. I have begged in every video that I need the second part of the book. No matter how much I like a book, if there is an excerpt from a different book by the same author or the second part of a series, I never read it because honestly I just want to get into the second book or the other book with complete surprise. But with this one book, I just couldn't help myself, and the first chapter was so good. I can only imagine what the book is going to be like. It can also be like a huge disappointment just because of how insanely anticipated it is by me. I am so scared, but I'm also so excited, and I just cannot wait for this book. Next up, we have another Emily Henry release. She has announced another book which is called Funny Story, which I don't have much idea about what the story is about because it's a little complicated, where the girl's boyfriend leaves her for her best friend or something like that. Basically, it's a very complicated relationship scenario. The title says Funny Story and the cover is obviously gorgeous but also sort of funny, and I just have not read such complex things which I think can also be hilarious by Emily Henry. So I just want to see what Emily Henry is going to do with this. The two characters that I have read from Happy Place and from Book Lovers, not from Beach Read, but from these two books, are the most relatable characters ever. So I don't know if this character is going to be relatable or not. What is it going to be like? Is it just going to be a good book or am I going to love it again? So many things to answer, but apart from all of that, just another Emily Henry book experience. I am up for it and I'm so excited. Next up, we have a novel love story by Ashley Poston, who is the author of Dead Romantics, which is a book that I recently read. There is another book by the same author which is called 7 Year Slip. I have not read that book yet because I'm just not getting it at an affordable price. I started listening to it as an audiobook on Storytel. The book just sounded so magical and there were so many quotable lines in the first few minutes itself that I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to read it so I can annotate it properly. Till then, I got Dead Romantics because one of you guys actually sent it to me, and I'm so grateful because then I got to read that book, and I just realized that the author has this sort of writing style that satisfies my teenage self. Even though I think that these are like not YA novels, these are proper adult novels. There is no spice in them, but still, I used to watch these magical love stories when I was a child, like when I was a teenager, and it used to be so swoony, and that is how I felt when I read Dead Romantics. And it also reminded me of this movie that I watched when I was a teenager. What was the movie's name? Oh, just like heaven. It was just such a magical experience. I watched that movie so many times even now, and this book made me feel like that. Now coming to the new release, a novel love story. It is the story of this woman who is traveling from one place to another, and she always has her head in a fiction love story, but then her car breaks down somewhere, I guess, and she gets out, and the town looks like one of the favorite towns from the book that she was reading, and she's like, what is going on? This is completely like, it's so fictional and it's just like my novel. But then as you move forward, you come to know that she is actually in that novel setting. Now I have no idea how the magic works. I have no idea if it actually happens that she is in the novel. All I know is that this is every girl's dream, to live in the fiction novel that she is reading that actually happens with our main character over here. So I am so excited to read what this book is going to be like, because I am sure it's going to be magical and perfect. Next, oh my god, I am so excited about this one. I read the book If He Had Been With Me this year in the rainy weather in July, I guess, and that book is such a rainy weather book. I mean, you can also read it in winters, but it's such a rainy weather book because so much of it also takes place in the rainy season. That book was so tragic, but I think one of my major complaints from that book was that it is of these two people, Autumn and Finn, and that book was too much about Autumn and very less about Finn. That does not mean that we did not get enough of Finn. Like, you can figure out what the character is like, it just you don't get his perspective, you don't know what he is thinking, you're seeing Autumn's perspective. So I was disappointed, but then I came to know that this book is coming out this year, which is If Only I Had Told Her, which is probably from the perspective of Finn from that book. And the way that book started and the way that book ended and the way the story went on, basically the entire book, that is what I'm going to try to say. The story was so beautiful and so tragic that I know for a fact that when I look at it from Finn's perspective, I'll just die. Like, I don't know how I'll get over it. I'll probably have to dedicate one entire week to that book, not because it'll take me time to read it, because I know I'll eat it as soon as it comes in my hands, but because I'll be so sad after it. Obviously, that also means that I can be hugely disappointed. All of these releases are like that. When they're so anticipated, they can also be very disappointing, but that does not mean that I'm so ready for this one. It's going to be crazy. It's crazy. You have to read the book to know what I'm talking about. Like, once you read the book, then you know why things from Finn's perspective are just going to be crazy. Next up, we have Daydream by Hannah Grace. Honestly, I have not read any book by Hannah Grace till now. I do own Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I want to get Icebreaker, but I'm not able to find a good seller on Amazon or anywhere else where I can get Icebreaker from. So I've not got it yet, and so I've not read Wildfire because I want to read it in sequence. But then the third book is actually basically related to books. I think the main female character is trying to write a book, and also these characters I think have been mentioned in the other books, but I don't know anything about them because I've not read the other two books. So this one is not that highly anticipated because I have read the first two books or something like that. It's highly anticipated because one, the cover is gorgeous, obviously. Two, I do want to finish this entire series, but also three, because it is revolving around books and I will read any book that revolves around a book. First of all, you are reading a book, which in itself is such a treat. Second of all, you're reading a book about books, like about a character who is into books. It's like somebody is holding a mirror to my face while I am reading the book. So next up, we have The Catch by Amy Lee or Amy Leah. I keep saying Amy Leah, but I've also seen some people say Amy Lee. I don't know, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. The Catch is the third book in the Influencers series. The first book is Set on You and the second book is X's and O's. Set on You is about a Fitstagrammer, X's and O's is about a Bookstagrammer, which is just crazy to me, which is like so freaking cool. And now this one, The Catch, is I think about a fashion influencer. I have read Set on You already and I really enjoyed that book. I feel like Amy Lee or Emilia has this unique writing style where she's also able to cover certain topics which can be heavy, but she deals with them with in a very sensitive manner. I am just so happy that she actually included a book influencer in this influencer series, because that is such a rare thing to see. Now I can't wait to read the story about the fashion influencer. Next up, we have Bride by Ali Hazelwood or Ali Hazelwood. Bride is the story of a vampire and a werewolf falling in love. Obviously falling in love. It's a romance, so it will be falling in love. A vampire, a werewolf, Ali Hazelwood. I can only imagine how crazily amazing this book is going to be. I am pretty sure it is going to be so out of the world. There is nothing better than the story of a vampire and a werewolf, and the way Ali Hazelwood writes her men. I'm so excited. Next up, we have the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. Do I need to say more? Holly Jackson is the author of the Good Girls Guide to Murder series and 5 Survive. Good Girls Guide to Murder series is one of the most amazing things that I have read in the year of 2023. 5 Survive, not that much. I mean, not as much as the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, but that does not mean that I didn't genuinely love that book too. I mean, it's not that it was a completely bad experience. All I can say is that I love Holly Jackson's writing style, and now she's coming out with a new book and I just cannot wait. The cover is so amazing. It is so similar to the Good Girls Guide to Murder series covers that for a minute I was like, oh my god, is she coming out with another book like with Pippa and Ravi in it? But that did not actually happen. If Holly Jackson is coming out with a book, I am reading it. Next up, we have Hearts That Cut, which is the sequel to Threads That Bind that I read this year. Now, honestly, Threads That Bind was not my most favorite book. Majorly, I was disappointed because in the beginning, like the first half of the book, the motive, the reason why the main character was doing whatever she was doing was just not that intense. But then, towards the end of the book, it became really, really good. And I think that is why I gave it 3 or 3.5 stars, because towards the end I actually genuinely started enjoying it. Then I realized that is actually part of a series. Now I can't wait for the second book because I know for a fact that the second book is going to be glorious, literally glorious. I anyhow love the cover of Threads That Bind. The cover of Hearts That Cut is just even prettier. When the second book comes out, I'm going to be reading the first book again, and I'm just really hoping that I enjoyed this book more at that time, because I do want to, because the concept is just so interesting. Next up, we have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I have absolutely no idea what this book is about. When I was doing my research, I did see the description, and it is, I think, historical fantasy or something like that. But then I was like, you know what, I want to go into this blind. I just want to read it because it's by Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo is the author of the Six of Crows duology, which is literally the best thing that I read this year. I mean, among a lot of other amazing things. And I got the most beautiful characters from Six of Crows, and now she's coming out with a new book. Obviously, I'm going to get it. There is no question about it. Next is Blue Sisters by Coco Mellers, and Coco Mellers is the author of Cleopatra and Frankenstein. I have already talked about Cleopatra and Frankenstein so much on this channel. It was such a surprise. It turned out to be like a 6-star read for me, and now the author is coming out with another book, which is not a sequel or anything, but just another new release in 2024, which is Blue Sisters. Yet again, I have no idea what it's about. I am seeing the ARCs here and there, and I'm hoping I get the ARC for myself because I love Coco Mellers so much. But just knowing that I get to read more by this one particular author, so exciting. Next up, we have Atlas Complex by Olivia Blake, which is just out of nowhere. This is random, but it's not actually random. I have read Masters of Death by Olivia Blake and Alone With You in the Ether by Olivia Blake, and they're both some of like 2 of my most favorite books from this year. Masters of Death was probably not a 5-star, but just it was so new and it was so refreshing. It was just something that I genuinely like. And Alone With You in the Ether is just out of the world. And both those books made me realize that the writing style of Olivia Blake is quite complex and it takes time to get into it. But that does not mean that I don't actually enjoy it. And so I've decided to read literally everything by her. She also has an Enemies to Lovers, which I have kept safe, by the way, one for my enemy, because I don't want to run out of content to read by Olivia Blake. All of these things just to say that I'm just in love with the writing style of Olivia Blake. She also has a series, and she's actually like most popular for this series, which is the Atlas 6. I don't know what you call the series actually. The first book is Atlas 6, and the second book is Atlas Paradox, and the third book is Atlas Complex. And now you guys know that I try not to read a series till the last book is out, and Atlas Complex is the last. There's too much Atlas going on over here. Okay, Atlas Complex is the last book in the entire series, and now that I only have one for my enemy left and I'm going to read it so soon, I need this book to come out so that I can buy the entire series and binge it. Actually, I don't think I'll be able to binge it because I think it's very complicated science stuff, and I'll probably not understand it, and it's dark academia, and I've never read something dark academia, so I don't know if I'll be able to understand everything or not. But I don't really care. If Olivia Blake has written it, I will read it. I don't know, I don't care how much time it takes. I don't care how much I have to think about what I am reading. I don't care how complicated it is. If she's building a world, I am in it. So I'm so excited for the third book to come out so I can buy the entire series. Next is a very interesting book that I am genuinely excited about, and I think it is coming out in 2024. I don't think it's announced, but I'm hoping it will come out in 2024. And that is Too Good to Be True by Prajakta Kohli, also known as Mostly Sane. She is coming out with a book. I know that she's a reader, and I remember watching her bookish videos, and I used to be like, oh wow, she's a reader, yay. And I love her content, and I love everything that she does. And now she's actually like, she's an actual author, and I just really want to read what she is writing, because I've seen her read so many of the romance books that I genuinely enjoy. I'm genuinely excited about it, like so excited about it. I was actually hoping that I could like talk to her about it, because she's in the social media space and she's coming out with a book, and I am in the social media space literally about books. So I really wish like I could interview her or something about the way she's writing, whatever her process is, things like that. I will probably mail, but I have mailed in the past and it has never worked out. Fingers crossed, let's see what happens with that. But whether I get to talk to her and interview her or not, that is completely aside. I'm genuinely excited about the book. Next we have Tara's Truce by Kavita Kane, which I think is already out. When I was making this list, it was available for pre-order, but now I'm seeing people get it. So I don't know if people are getting the ARC or they're getting their pre-order like book. Kavita Kane is one of my most favorite authors when it comes to Indian mythology, because she writes from the voice of characters that are forgotten, or they have not been talked about that much from like these different epics. So for example, Sita's sister, that is the story of Urmila, and we don't see a lot of what Urmila has to say when you're watching Ramayana. Or I read Ahalya's Awakening, which is one of my literally most favorite books ever. And so many other books, just stories of women who are just not that popular when you're reading all of these epics. And this is the story of Tara, and Tara is the wife of Vali or Bali. I think it's Bali. Some people also pronounce it as Vali. I never thought that I would read the story of Bali's wife. And that is so cool. It is so cool that Kavita Kane even thought of this one particular character. Ahalya, obviously a very underrated character, but a very fascinating character. But Tara, that is crazy and amazing. So if the book is out already, I'm going to buy it very, very soon. But if it's not out yet and it comes out in 2024, you guys need to look out for it. It is so good. I'm pretty sure it's going to be amazing. Another book that I'm very excited about is Expiration Dates. I have not read any books by this author, and I don't even know much about this author. It's just when I was looking at the list of the new releases and things like that, when I was doing my own research, I came across this book. And this book is the story of this girl who always gets an expiration date in a note or a chit or whatever of the relationship that she is in currently, so she knows when it is going to end. But then there comes a time where she did not get an expiration date for this one particular guy, and so you get to see what happens with that. And I think that this is a very interesting concept, something that I have not read at all ever. So even though I don't know the author and I've not read anything about the author, I don't even know if this is a debut novel, I don't know anything, I just really want to read it. In the end, we have The Breakup Pact by Emma Lord and The Getaway List by Emma Lord only. Emma Lord is the author of Begin Again, and yet again she was a new author that I started reading this year. Begin Again was a complete shocker. It is a YA novel. You can dignify it as a college romance, but I think it is there are so many more things in it, because the romance was more like a subplot for me. But just the journey of the main character, but also the journey of all of the side characters, and the way everything just comes together, and the way they all talk, and the character arcs, they were so beautiful. And so I have decided to read any and every book there is by Emma Lord. I know a little bit about The Breakup Act, which is the story of these two people. Their breakup story, or the fact that they have broken up, has gone viral, and now you get to see how they deal with it. This is such little information to have when you're getting into a book, but that is how I felt with Begin Again also. Like, it sounds so mundane and things like that. It's not that exciting. It's a romance months, whatever. But when I read Begin Again, it was just so good. So I'm thinking that even with these books, I don't know anything about the Getaway List, but I'm thinking that even with these books, even though it sounds so silly or whatever, when I read it, it is very, very interesting and deep, and I get the same satisfaction that I got when I read Begin Again. And with that, we come towards the end of the video. These are all of my highly anticipated books for 2024. There are many other books coming out actually, which honestly I am excited about, but at the same time I have not read anything related to them. I am excited, but I don't know the hype, so it's not a highly anticipated book, and so I did not include them in this video. But 2024 is going to be an amazing year when it comes to new releases, and I'm so excited to read all of them and review them for you guys. So now you also get excited and wait for these books, and let's read them together. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Bye.